Autisticus Interruptus describes the state of inactivity, perplexity and indecision experienced by autistic people when their task-focused flow has been diverted or blocked by an exterior influence. Or, put another way, if you want to get anything useful out of me, don't interrupt me when I'm working. I'm Quinn and I'm autistic, and this is Autistamatic. I'd like to have a little chat about the worst kind of autistic interruptions, so why not grab yourself a cuppa and join me for a few minutes. If you know anything about autism, then you'll know that on the whole we tend to like consistency. A lot. We like routines for a start, and we get titchy when they're messed about. Plenty of us can't stand surprises, even birthday treats and the like. We're known for being very particular about all sorts of things, for being passionate about the things we like and getting attached to people, trinkets and collections. Same foods are such a well-known and common autistic phenomenon that everyone seems to know what they are now. Then, a few years ago, a trio of autistic scientists came up with a theory that gave some insight into why that is. They called it monotropism. Autistic people, they observed, not only from the folks they study but in themselves as well, literally have one-track minds. It's not that we can't hold more than one thought in our heads at once, but we distribute our attention and our mental resources very differently to the non-autistic people we live and work with. We prioritise different things, and so we share out our cognitive and emotional faculties according to different rules. If you'd like to watch a video all about monotropism, I'll pop a link up at the top for you. You can get back to this point using the chapter marker I'll put down labelled Hyperfocus in the description. Hyperfocus is by far the most well-known and discussed expression of monotropism, but only amongst autistic and neurodivergent folks it seems. For anyone else, it goes something like this. Most people have got themselves into a dodgy or threatening situation before, something that made them anxious, worried, maybe concerned for their own safety, and they found something weird and wonderful happening in their brains in response. They suddenly became more alert to their situation and the problem at hand, taking in what's going on more clearly, making connections and strategizing. It's their fight versus flight response kicking in, tweaking their brain chemistry and ramping up their bodies ready for action so they can put their elbows up or get out of dodge, whichever option their brains are wired up to favour. Hyperfocus is kind of like those first few moments when all our attention, all our mental, emotional and physical resources have been diverted to understanding the singular problem we've been faced with. But it's stimulated by enthusiasm and interest rather than fear or anxiety. Just the sense of fascination, of connection and of progress towards our goals. It's a truly glorious feeling when it happens, and it can be incredibly useful too, not only to us, but for the people who rely on us. So much of my best work of any kind has been done whilst hyperfocused that I couldn't imagine life without having that facility. Whenever I have one of those serious nitty-gritty chats with another autist and the subject of what we like about being autistic comes up, hyperfocus usually comes top, or at least top 3. Interrupting someone who's deep in hyperfocus can often be a messy business for everyone concerned, but it's never, ever pleasant for the autist on the receiving end. It's unsettling, to say the least. When it happens to me, it's like trying to snap me out of a trance. It can take a while for me to realise someone's trying to attract my attention, and when I do, my first inclination is to find a suitable juncture to pause so I can divert my attention just enough to hear them, but without losing my flow too much. You know, if you wake up at night needing the loo and you're trying to get there and back without waking up too much so you can go to sleep again when you get back to bed. Something like that. But it's a complex task or thought process that I'm hanging on to, not the teasingly delicious remnants of blissful sleep. 9 times out of 10, even that ain't happening though. People want my full attention, so I get rudely yanked out of my reverie and I lose my train of thought completely. I've never been the sort to lash out at people. I don't like violence and I've never been one to start a punch-up, but a couple of times I've accidentally hurt someone when being physically pulled out of hyperfocus. I've hurt myself too. I've fallen off chairs more than once after being violently returned to reality from whatever thought process I was lost in at the time. But some autistic folks do get angry and physical when pulled out of hyperfocus. I've known otherwise placid autists who totally lose their shit when someone barges into their mind palace. They go full-on mental Malcolm with verbal abuse, stamping their feet, even smashing things sometimes. I'm not talking about severe or profound autists here, just regular folks with jobs and responsibilities for the most part. But there's a few PhDs I know that can throw a full-on flinging meltdown when someone pokes a spanner in their mental works. Losing hyperfocus is a massive deal, but it's rare I meet anyone who isn't autistic who can quite relate to how uncomfortable, how painful, and how destructive it can be. Remember that short walk from our beds to the loo in the middle of the night, where we're wary of turning any lights on in case we wake up too much, feeling our way to the bathroom, taking slow, careful steps to keep the noise down so we don't disturb anyone else? But also remember, that's what I'm doing when I'm trying to pay attention without losing hyperfocus. That's when people are being gentle and accommodating about it. If someone just demands my attention whilst I'm deep in hyperfocus, especially if they physically jostle me or shout at me to rouse me, you can forget about not turning the lights on. That's marching a mariachi band into my bedroom at 3 a.m. playing La Cucaracha at full blast whilst a SWAT team crashes through my landing windows with floodlights behind them. I won't need the loo anymore because I'm in so much shock I'll have soiled myself. But that's just the initial shock. Then there's getting back to where I left off and picking up the threads again, which isn't always possible. This is why I describe the state of Autisticus Interruptus as not just being inconvenient and annoying, but of being destructive. Things get lost forever. I have a particular problem in that direction because of specific variations in my own neurology. None of them are unique to me, and some of them are pretty common amongst autists, but not to all of us. Some autistic folks don't have the same obstacles as me because they've different but related problems of their own. For me, my short-term memory isn't great at all. That's a trait very common in both autistic and ADHD folks especially. I rely heavily on echoic memory for short-term purposes, so interruptions throw me way off course at the best of times. My semantic memory, facts and figures kind of stuff, is really good, but my episodic memory is a little different. My memory for events is very good in some ways and lacking in others, not least because I'm aphantasic. That means I can't imagine fictional scenes or objects in my mind or picture the visual details of a memory, so I can't rely on or trust my memory for visual details. I'm alexithemic too. Around half of autistic people are alexithemic like me, which means that my feelings, my emotions, don't always resolve in the moment. I experience their consequences, but I don't consciously understand or sometimes even feel those emotions until much later. Emotional responses are an integral part of the process of laying down lasting memories. And I have very flaky executive functioning at times, meaning I can have difficulty prioritising everyday tasks and initiating action, which applies just as much to memory as anything else. None of those foibles, those personal characteristics, is a deal breaker on its own, and all of them can be compensated for or accommodated for otherwise. But they're a major problem when we're problem solving or creating in the zone. I used to jokingly call Hyperfocus the Autistamatic Zone, because I feel like a productivity machine when I'm there. If I'm learning something, then everything's making sense and the connections are actively being made, almost palpably. It's almost like I can feel the knowledge melting into my brain cells like the first snowflakes of winter settling on concrete. If I'm working on something, then it flows at a pace that surprises everyone, including me sometimes. In the zone, everything works more smoothly, more efficiently than it does outside, and I work not only faster, but more accurately too. I'm not exaggerating when I say it's often my best work that I do in Hyperfocus too. If I managed to spend a whole day in the zone, I'm often pretty knackered the day after, and I sometimes wake up with a sense of trepidation, a mild feeling of dread at what I'll find when I look at the previous day's work. Surely it can't be that good because I did it so quickly. Yet, more often than not, it's fine. Better than fine. If it was up to me, then I'd make Hyperfocus available to everyone because it's pretty bloody amazing when it works. And when I think about what we could achieve if we could all do it, but I can't always do it myself. We don't always get to choose when or how that lovely, juicy, delicious Hyperfocus will be on the menu, because most of us just can't turn it on and off at will. It has to come naturally. Hyperfocus tastes so sweet because it's us at our best. If it weren't so exhausting, I'd spend every waking moment in the zone because it feels so useful. It's not about winning anything or being top dog in the pecking order. It's just taking immense pleasure in being able to function at our peak potential and get stuff done. A few hours in the zone can be enough to catch up with backlogs and get a head start. It can be the inspired solution to a thorny problem, or it could be getting a week's learning done in a single day. Hyperfocus is a privilege we only get to enjoy when conditions are favourable though. The winds of fate have to be blowing in our direction for them to fill our sails and propel us into the Autistamatic triangle where Hyperfocus magic happens. It's impossible to focus on a task when we're being constantly distracted. But for the kind of focus we're talking about today, even small distractions can be like wrecking balls. And this is the absolute kicker of it. Why it feels so unfair sometimes. Hyperfocus makes us capable of such intense interest and absorption that we can do remarkable things when left to get on with it in peace. But for an autist living in the 21st century, peace isn't easy to come by. Our sensory sensitivities are constantly jangled by a world that's too loud, too bright, too stinky for us to concentrate. Our emotional strings are constantly being tugged one way and another by friends, family, bosses, politicians, pastors, news stories, rumours, social media and advertisers, putting emotionally sensitive autists in a constant spin. And whilst we're on advertisers, look at all the bullshit we have to deal with in everyday life now. All the uncertainties, not only in the day-to-day, but in the news happening all around us. Our sense of veracity, of truth and consistency, is under 24-hour assault every single day. So when exactly are we supposed to find the opportunity to shut it all out and hyperfocus, eh? I'm far from alone in having relied on hyperfocus to carry me through many a time. Most folks who've done that know what it feels like when their employers start trying to take advantage of it too. And plenty of them have also paid the consequences when those employers realise that we can't turn it on and off at will. And the more pressure they put on, the more distant it becomes. But now I'm self-employed. Not by choice, but by circumstance. And now I need that hyperfocus for myself. And it's not always forthcoming. I'm currently working on a series about autistic burnout whilst being relatively close to said burnout myself. And those aren't great conditions for hyperfocus in themselves. I've discovered a few hacks over the years to trick my brain into entering the zone that serve me well some of the time, but they're not infallible. The more life piles onto us, the less likely they'll work, which is why I'm having this tea time chat with you right now. I've had an unexpectedly busy couple of weeks, and not all for unwanted reasons either. Some of it's been quite positive and optimistic, if quite draining, and of course interrupting things. But you might also have noticed by the light that I'm recording this quite early in the morning. It started at about 7:30 a.m. to be precise. That's because if I leave it any later, it'll be too hot for me to even think, let alone work. We've just started yet another potentially record-breaking heatwave in the UK and across Western Europe, and that's not good for me. There's red significant risk to life warnings across much of the UK for the next couple of days, including us. And it feels like it. The local schools are closed for the next few days. A couple of employers have had to close their doors too, and the supermarket up the road's in trouble because their fridges and freezers have broken down under the extreme heat conditions already. I'm recording this outdoors, obviously, and at this time, because it's cooler out here than indoors right now. Our house, like most of the UK, is very well insulated for cold weather, but it's not built for this. When I came outdoors, it was 29 degrees on the thermometer in the living room and 24 out here. I didn't want to come out until everyone was getting up and ready for work though, being a good neighbour and all that, hence why I didn't start till 7:30. Later today, it's forecast to exceed 40 degrees centigrade in parts of the UK. That's 104 Fahrenheit for those who need it. That's unprecedented heat for this part of the world and for this woefully unprepared population. Thing is, I'm extremely sensitive to temperature changes at the best of times, and high heat is my worst nightmare. I've always had trouble regulating my temperature, and some of the meds I'm on now affect it too. So I'm going to be spending the next few days unable to think of anything but keeping cool. And not just myself. I've got a disabled wife and my pets to think about too. We do have a single AC unit in our living room and good quality fans around the house, but in temperatures like we're facing in the next few days, they're going to struggle to keep up, and they'll be noisy too. Not good conditions for hyperfocusing to make autism videos. Heat like that isn't very kind to 4K cameras or computers either, adding a practical complication to the mix. And they generate heat too, making things worse. So this is planned in advance to be a very simple edit too. So, the second burnout video will take me a little longer than anticipated because there's no way I'm going to be hyperfocusing while I'm baking in the heat. If you're in the UK or anywhere else facing similar conditions over the next week or so, then please take care of yourselves. You know the drill. Drink plenty of water, rest more than usual, get plenty of sleep because the heat will drain you, and protect your skin from the sun too. I've put factor 30 on my legs and face and a hat on just for this bit of early morning filming in my garden. It looks like weather like this is going to be the norm going forward rather than the exception. So perhaps I, for one, need to start thinking about a new strategy specifically for working in these sorts of temperatures in future. This heatwave is forecast to only last a few days, thankfully. So once the temperature goes down, I'll get back to work, and this particular spell of Autisticus Interruptus will be behind us. But for now, I'm Quinn, and I'm autistic. Thank you for your time.